Hello.
I thought I knew my wife of 11 years until I caught her laughing with another man at our favorite cafe. The note I left her was simple: don't come home. What she did next shattered any respect I had left. But she wasn't ready for how a man who builds skyscrapers handles betrayal. By the time I was done, both their worlds would collapse, and I'd be watching from solid ground. My name is Adrian Steele. I'm 43, a senior architect at Thornton and Associates, one of Boston's premier architectural firms. For 11 years, I believed I had a rock-solid marriage with Jennifer, my photographer wife. We chose careers over children. I was designing landmark buildings across New England, while she built her photography studio into something respected in artistic circles. That Tuesday in April started as one of my best professional days. After a heated 3-hour meeting where I refused to compromise on my vision for the Richardson Museum expansion, the board unanimously approved my design. The CEO himself shook my hand, saying, "This is why we hired you, Steele. You don't back down when you know you're right." Riding that victory, I decided to surprise Jennifer. I've been neglecting her lately with this project, and it was time to reconnect. I picked up lilies from Giovanni's, her favorite since our honeymoon in Italy, and headed to her studio in the Arts District. She left early. Megan, her assistant, said with a strange hesitation, "Meeting a client at Cafe Luciana." She paused, then added, "Some gallery owner. She's been meeting him a lot lately." Something in her tone sent a cold current down my spine. I thanked her and walked the 6 blocks to the cafe, my pace quickening with each step. The moment I pushed through the door, the world shifted. There in a corner booth sat Jennifer, with a well-dressed man about my age. Her hand wasn't just resting on his arm. Her fingers were intertwined with his. She laughed at something he said, leaning forward in a way that was unmistakably intimate. I recognized that laugh. It was the one that used to be reserved for me. For a moment, I stood frozen, the lilies gripped in my hand. Then 20 years of construction site confrontations and boardroom battles kicked in. A real man faces problems head-on. I approached their table with measured steps. Neither noticed me until I stood over them, casting a shadow across their cozy scene. Jennifer's head snapped up, her smile vanishing when our eyes met. "Adrian." Her hand jerked away from his. "What are you?" The man, Robert, I would later learn, looked more annoyed than embarrassed. Like I was interrupting a business meeting, not exposing an affair. Without a word, I took out my leather-bound notebook, the one where I sketched my greatest designs. I wrote 6 words, my handwriting as precise as my blueprints. "Don't come home. We're done." I placed the note and lilies on the table, turned on my heel, and walked out. My shoulders never slumped. My stride never faltered as I pushed through the door, even as I heard Jennifer calling my name. I ran into my wife at a cafe with another man and gave her a "don't come home" note. What she did next would show me I'd been married to a stranger all along. I spent the next few hours driving aimlessly around Boston, the city I'd helped reshape with my designs. The Harborfront Plaza, the Wilson Tower downtown, the New Arts Wing at Northeastern. Buildings I'd poured my soul into while my marriage apparently crumbled. Eventually, I headed to my office, burying myself in work until well past midnight. When I finally returned home, our brownstone was dark. For a moment, I thought Jennifer had respected my note. Then I spotted her car in the driveway. My jaw clenched. Even in this, she couldn't honor a simple request. I entered to find her sitting in our living room, a glass of wine in hand, composed as if waiting for a late dinner guest rather than confronting the end of our marriage. No tears, no obvious distress, just calculated poise. "We need to talk, Adrian," she said, setting down her glass with theatrical precision. I remained standing, arms crossed. "About what? How long you've been sleeping with the gallery owner? Or how stupid you think I am? It's not what you think." She sighed, as if I were a difficult client overreacting to a minor design change. "Robert and I are just colleagues. What you saw was a business conversation." A bitter laugh escaped me. "I've had plenty of business conversations, Jennifer. None involve holding hands and whispering in each other's ears. You're overreacting." She stood, approaching me with that photographer's grace she'd always had. It was innocent. "You've been so distant lately, buried in your projects. Robert appreciates my work. He listens. And I don't." The calm in my voice surprised even me. "Not lately." Her tone turned accusatory. You've been absent for months, Adrian. Mentally and physically. What was I supposed to do? Talk to me. Tell me there was a problem. I countered, keeping my voice level. Not sneak around behind my back like I'm some inconvenience to work around. She flinched, the first crack in her facade. It just happened. It's not serious. How long? I demanded. Her hesitation told me everything. 3 months, she finally admitted. But it's just been emotional, not physical. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Just emotional. As if betraying my trust isn't enough unless there's sex involved. Jennifer's eyes hardened. I didn't plan this, Adrian. I was lonely. Robert understands me in ways you stopped trying to years ago. So this is my fault. I stepped closer, towering over her. You cheating is because I worked too hard building the life we both wanted. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she said something that made my blood run cold. I'm not sure I want this marriage anymore, Adrian. I'm not sure I ever did. The calculated cruelty of that statement, delivered like she was critiquing one of my designs, told me everything. This wasn't a momentary lapse. This was Jennifer showing me who she truly was. Pack your things, I said quietly. Tonight. I want you gone by morning. Her eyes widened with genuine surprise. Clearly, she'd expected me to beg, to negotiate, to compromise. She'd seriously misjudged the man she married. Where am I supposed to go? She demanded. I don't care. Call Robert. I turned away, heading toward the stairs. I'm sure he'll make room for you. Sleep didn't come that night. I spent hours in my home office, staring at architectural plans that suddenly seemed meaningless. Around 3 a.m., I heard Jennifer leave the guest room and exit the house. She didn't slam the door, just a quiet click that somehow felt more final than any dramatic exit. By morning, I was running on coffee and determination. I headed to the office early, throwing myself into the Richardson project with single-minded focus. My team noticed something was off, but respected me enough not to pry. That's what I'd built over the years. Not just buildings, but respect. I was reviewing foundation specifications when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Is this Adrian Steele? A man's voice, unfamiliar but tentative. Speaking. My name is Steve Lawson. I work at Jennifer's studio. He paused. I think there's something you should know. My grip tightened on the phone. I'm listening. Check your email. I just sent you something. She doesn't know I have these. The call ended. I opened my email to find a message with several attachments, photos, and a video file. My hands were steady as I clicked on them one by one. The photos showed Jennifer and Robert together, entering a hotel, embracing in a parking lot, laughing over dinner at restaurants I'd never been to. The timestamp spanned months. The video was worse, shot from a distance, clearly without their knowledge. Jennifer and Robert outside his gallery after hours, engaged in an intimate embrace that couldn't be explained away as just colleagues. Then her voice, clear as day. Adrian will never find out. He's too busy creating his precious buildings to notice what's happening right under his nose. Robert laughed. The oblivious husband. A classic for a reason. I closed my laptop, a strange calm washing over me. The betrayal was deeper than I'd imagined. More calculated, more deliberate. This wasn't a momentary weakness, but a sustained campaign of deception. I dialed Steve back. Why are you showing me this? His voice was quiet. Because I was where you were 6 months ago. Different woman, same story. Nobody showed me the truth until it was too late. How long have you known? A while. She's not exactly subtle around the studio. The whole staff knows. I'm sorry, man. After hanging up, I sat perfectly still, processing this new reality. Jennifer hadn't just betrayed our marriage. She'd mocked it, mocked me, made me the punchline of a joke shared with her lover and colleagues. I'd spent my career building things to last, structures designed to withstand time and elements. I'd applied the same principles to our marriage, believing it was equally solid, equally enduring. I'd been wrong. That night, alone in our house, I made a decision. This wouldn't break me. I'd survived professional setbacks that would have crushed lesser architects. Client rejections, budget cuts, designs criticized and abandoned. Each time, I come back stronger. This betrayal was just another structural failure to analyze and respond to. Methodically, deliberately, like the architect I was trained to be. The next morning, I received another message from Steve. Can we meet? There's more you should know. We arranged to meet at a small coffee shop far from Jennifer's studio. I arrived early, securing a corner table with a view of the door, an old habit from construction site negotiations. Trust, but verify positioning. Steve arrived precisely on time, mid-30s, with the careful look of someone who handled expensive camera equipment for a living. His handshake was firm, his expression grim. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. "You said there's more." I kept my voice level, professional. "I'm listening." He glanced around before leaning forward. "Robert isn't just Jennifer's lover. He's married too. His wife, Anita, is a curator at the Gardner Museum." The revelation landed like a punch. Not just an affair, but a double betrayal. 2 marriages destroyed for what? Excitement? Ego? "How do you know all this?" I asked. Steve's expression hardened. "Because Jennifer keeps bragging about it to my girlfriend Megan, her assistant. How they're being so clever, meeting right under everyone's noses. How they have this system worked out to keep both you and his wife in the dark." "A system," I repeated, the architect in me noting the irony of their careful planning. "Alibis, cover stories, deleted texts. They've been at it for months." I nodded slowly, processing this new information. "Why are you really telling me this, Steve? You barely know me." He stared into his coffee. "My ex-wife pulled the same stunt 3 years ago. Nobody warned me, even though half our friends knew. By the time I figured it out, she'd moved her boyfriend into our house while I was on a business trip." He looked up, meeting my eyes. "No one deserves that humiliation." A moment of silent understanding passed between us. A brotherhood of betrayed men. "Robert's wife," I said finally. "Does she know?" "I don't think so. Jennifer joked about how clueless she is, focused on her museum career while her husband appreciates other works of art." His disgust was evident. "Do you have any way to contact her?" Steve hesitated, then nodded. "Through the museum, probably." "You thinking of telling her? Wouldn't you have wanted someone to tell you?" I asked. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he pulled out his phone, showing me more evidence. Screenshots of texts between Jennifer and Megan discussing meeting locations, alibis, inside jokes about me. "She's not who you thought she was, man." Steve's voice was gentle now. "And from what Megan says, this isn't ending anytime soon. They're talking about a trip to New York next month, supposedly for a gallery showing, actually for a romantic getaway." I thanked him, my architect's mind already drafting plans, calculating angles, assessing structural supports. Except now, I was planning the dismantling of the life Jennifer had so carefully constructed with her lies. As we parted ways, Steve offered a final thought. "For what it's worth, everyone at the studio thinks you got a raw deal. Jennifer's talented, but what she's doing to you, it's wrong." I nodded, shook his hand, and walked away, my steps purposeful. I had blueprints to draw up, blueprints for accountability. Jennifer texted that evening. "Need to pick up more of my things tomorrow. Will you be home?" I stared at the message, noting the lack of apology or acknowledgement of what she'd done. Typical. Her world revolved around her convenience. "I'll be home at 6, I replied. "Be quick about it." Then I began preparing. I printed every photo, screenshot, and transcript Steve had provided, arranging them meticulously on the dining room table. The same table where we'd celebrated anniversaries, entertained friends, and planned our future. I added printouts of Robert's social media profiles, including several photos of him with his wife at gallery openings and charity events. The next day at work, I was laser-focused despite sleeping little. My team noticed the change, mistaking my intensity for dedication to the Richardson project. In reality, I was preparing for a different kind of construction, rebuilding my life from the foundation up. At 5:30, I headed home, stopping to purchase a bottle of the scotch I reserved for project completions. This qualified. I arrived home to find Jennifer's car already in the driveway. She was in our bedroom, filling a suitcase with designer clothes when I entered. She'd used her key despite my clear message that she wasn't welcome. "You're early," she said without looking up. "It's my house." She flinched at my tone, but continued packing. "I need to get my jewelry from the safe." "Fine." I watched her movements, confident, entitled, as if this were a minor inconvenience rather than the end of our marriage. When she finally addressed me directly, her expression was carefully composed. "Adrian, I think we should discuss the house. I've put a lot of work into the interior design, and we'll let the lawyers handle that. I cut her off. But before you go, there's something I'd like to show you downstairs. Her brow furrowed with suspicion, but curiosity won out. She followed me to the dining room, where my presentation awaited. The moment she saw the table, she froze. Her photographers, I would have instantly recognized the narrative the images told. Her betrayal laid out in chronological order, annotated with dates and locations. What is this? Her voice had lost its composure. Documentation. I replied calmly, pouring myself a scotch. I'm an architect, Jennifer. I believe in thorough planning and solid evidence. Her shock gave way to anger. You had me followed? Spied on. I didn't have to. I gestured to the images. You did this so openly that your colleagues noticed. One of them has a conscience. Imagine that. Her eyes darted over the table, lingering on the photos of Robert with his wife. This is invasion of privacy. Those are personal moments. So is our marriage. I took a slow sip of scotch. Until you made it entertainment for your lover and colleagues. Her face paled. What are you going to do with these? I shrugged. Haven't decided yet. But Anita might be interested in seeing her husband's extracurricular activities. Don't you think? You wouldn't. Fear crept in her voice. Why not? You didn't hesitate to destroy our marriage. Why should I protect Robert's? Jennifer's carefully constructed facade finally cracked. She wasn't in control anymore, and the realization hit her like a physical blow. Finish getting your things, I said quietly, and leave your key. Jennifer left that night, her composure shattered. She'd always prided herself on controlling the narrative, in her photography, in our social circle, in our marriage. Seeing the evidence of her betrayal laid out with architectural precision had knocked her off balance exactly as I'd intended. After she left, I poured another scotch and drafted an email to Anita Collins, Robert's wife. I kept it simple and direct. I have information about your husband that you should know. Would you be willing to meet? I attached one photo, nothing explicit, just Robert and Jennifer entering a hotel, and my phone number. I hit send before I could reconsider. A man handles difficult situations head-on, not by avoiding them. The response came faster than expected. The next morning, my phone rang with an unknown number. Is this Adrian Steele? A woman's voice, steady but cautious. Yes, this is Anita Collins. I received your email. She paused. I'd like to meet today, if possible. We arranged to meet at a quiet cafe far from both the museum and Robert's gallery. I arrived early, securing a corner table with good privacy. Anita was punctual, a tall, elegant woman with a curator's attentive eyes. She carried herself with dignity, though the tension in her shoulders was evident. Thank you for meeting me, I said, standing to greet her with a firm handshake. She nodded, her gaze direct and unflinching. Your email wasn't exactly subtle, Mr. Steele. Adrian, I corrected, and subtlety seemed counterproductive at this point. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Fair enough. She sat down, arranging herself with deliberate composure. So, you're Jennifer's husband. Soon-to-be ex-husband. I clarified. She studied me carefully. How long have you known? About a week. I met her gaze steadily. You? I've suspected for months. Her admission surprised me. Robert isn't as clever as he thinks. Late nights at the gallery, mysterious business trips, suddenly password protecting his phone. She shook her head. I'm a curator, Adrian. I'm trained to notice details. Why haven't you confronted him? She sighed. I needed evidence, not just suspicions. My father was a lawyer, taught me never to enter a battle unprepared. I opened my portfolio and slid several photos across the table. Is this enough preparation? She examined each one methodically, her expression never wavering, though her knuckles whitened around her coffee cup. Yes, she said finally. This is comprehensive. There's more, I said. Texts, emails, video. A colleague at Jennifer's studio provided them. Anita raised an eyebrow. Someone with a conscience. Rare these days. My thoughts exactly. She gathered the photos into a neat stack, her movements precise. What are you planning to do, Adrian? In my marriage with dignity intact. Beyond that. I shrugged. I haven't decided. She nodded slowly. What if I told you I have a proposition? I'm listening. They think they're so clever, don't they? Playing us for fools while they carry on their little adventure. Steele entered her voice. I propose we show them exactly how wrong they are. As she outlined her plan, I recognized a kindred spirit, someone else who built things to last, who valued integrity, who refused to be anyone's victim. By the time we finished our coffee, we had an understanding and a path forward. They underestimated us both, Anita said as we parted. For the first time in days, I felt a sense of forward momentum. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about accountability. Anita's plan was elegant in its simplicity. She invited Robert to lunch at an upscale restaurant near the museum, a place they frequented for anniversary celebrations. I arranged for Jennifer to accidentally see us there. Steve helped, mentioning to Jennifer that I'd been seen with an attractive woman at Bellini's. Just as Anita predicted, Jennifer's curiosity got the better of her. I spotted her entering the restaurant just as Anita and I were deep in conversation, heads close together, her hand occasionally touching mine for emphasis, a perfect mirror of what I'd witnessed at Café Luciana. Jennifer froze when she saw us, then marched directly to our table, righteous indignation written across her face. Really, Adrian? This is your response? Dating someone else already? I looked up calmly. Jennifer. What a surprise. Anita turned, her expression perfectly composed. You must be Jennifer. Adrian's told me so much about you. Jennifer faltered, thrown by Anita's calm demeanor. And you are? Anita Collins. She extended her hand with museum curator grace. Curator at the Gardner Museum. And Robert's wife. The color drained from Jennifer's face. Robert's wife, yes. Anita smiled pleasantly. Adrian and I have been having the most fascinating conversation about betrayal, deception, and consequences. Please join us. Jennifer remained standing, her photographer's instinct for framing situations clearly failing her. This is ambush. No, I corrected. It's a conversation. One that's long overdue. I'm not doing this here. Jennifer's voice shook slightly. That's your choice, Anita replied. But Robert is joining us shortly. He thinks I'm meeting a potential donor. Her smile turned sharp. Surprise. Jennifer's phone was already in her hand, fingers flying over the screen, undoubtedly warning Robert. But it was too late. He appeared at the restaurant entrance, scanning the room before spotting us. I watched the recognition dawn on his face. First confusion at seeing his wife with me, then absolute panic when he spotted Jennifer at our table. What's happening here? He demanded upon reaching us, trying to maintain his gallery owner composure. Clarity, Anita answered, her voice steady. Something long overdue. We know everything. I added. The hotels, the trips, the mocking texts. Everything. Robert's confident facade cracked. This is hardly the place. You didn't seem concerned about appropriate places when you were sleeping with my wife. I cut in, my voice low but carrying. A few nearby diners glanced our way, quickly looking down at their plates. Perhaps we should take this somewhere private, Anita suggested, ever the professional. Why? I asked. They didn't keep their affair private. Half of Jennifer's studio knows. College administrators have been gossiping about it. Why should we hide the consequences? Jennifer and Robert exchanged panicked glances, finally realizing the depth of their miscalculation. They'd thought us oblivious, distracted by careers, easy to deceive and manipulate. They were discovering just how wrong they'd been. The aftermath of our restaurant confrontation spread like fire through dry timber. Robert and Jennifer fled the restaurant separately, he claiming an emergency at the gallery, she suddenly remembering a client meeting. Both transparent excuses that fooled no one. Anita and I remained, finishing our lunch with remarkable composure considering what had just transpired. We exchanged contact information and agreed to keep each other updated on developments. I expected Jennifer's reaction to come swiftly, and it did. My phone exploded with texts that evening. How dare you ambush me like that? Is this your idea of being mature? You had no right to involve Robert's wife. I left them unanswered, which only fueled her indignation. She showed up at my office the next day, barging past my assistant despite her protests. You've gone too far, Adrian, she fumed, closing my office door behind her. I remained seated, calmly working on the Richardson plans. Have I? Or have I simply responded appropriately to your betrayal? You're trying to destroy my life. Her voice rose, the composure she normally maintained for clients completely absent. I finally looked up. No, Jennifer. I'm simply making sure you face the consequences of your choices. Something you clearly didn't anticipate. What do you want from me? Desperation crept in her tone. Nothing. The simplicity of my answer clearly unsettled her. I don't want anything from you anymore. She slumped into the chair across from my desk. Robert's wife has frozen their accounts. She's filed for divorce. His gallery investors are getting nervous. Actions have consequences, I replied, returning to my blueprints. The gallery was going to show my work next month. This could ruin my career. I put down my pencil. You should have considered that before you decided to sleep with him. Before you mocked me to your colleagues. Before you made a fool of me. Jennifer's expression shifted from anger to calculation. I recognized it from our negotiations over house renovations. I made a mistake, Adrian. A terrible mistake. But do we really need to destroy everything we built? I almost admired her audacity. There is no anymore, Jennifer. You demolished that when you chose Robert. He ended things with me this morning, she admitted. Said he needed to focus on saving his marriage. I laughed without humor. And now you're back to your second choice? That's not how this works. I never meant to hurt you, she tried again. But you did. Deliberately and repeatedly. I returned to my work, dismissing her. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce arrangements. I suggest you find a new gallery to display your work. After she left, I received a text from Anita. Robert's begging for another chance. Promising therapy, transparency, the works. He's terrified about the gallery's reputation. I replied, Jennifer just left my office. Suddenly remembered our marriage after Robert dumped her. Her response came quickly. Isn't it remarkable how consequences clarify priorities? Indeed, it was. The architect, in me, appreciated the structural logic. Remove a supporting beam, and the true strengths and weaknesses of a construction are revealed. The days following our confrontation brought an avalanche of reactions. Friends and colleagues took sides, creating battle lines I never anticipated drawing. Most surprising were those who defended Jennifer, suggesting I'd overreacted or been unnecessarily harsh. Claire, a designer we'd known for years, called one evening. Adrian, I heard about what happened with Jennifer and Robert. Don't you think public humiliation was going a bit far? Would you prefer I kept quiet while being betrayed and mocked? I countered, of course not, but involving his wife, creating a scene in Bellini's. She hesitated. It just seems vindictive. Accountability isn't vindictive, Claire. It's necessary. The conversation ended awkwardly, another casualty of Jennifer's deception. Meanwhile, the professional consequences mounted. Robert's gallery investors called an emergency meeting, concerned about potential scandal affecting their investments. Jennifer's exhibition was postponed indefinitely. A significant client of my firm who collected Jennifer's photography quietly transferred their project to another architect, citing personal conflicts. Jennifer continued her campaign to reconcile, sending increasingly desperate messages. Adrian, please. We need to talk. This is destroying everything I've worked for. Can't we at least meet to discuss things civilly? I maintained my position with the same steadiness that had earned me respect in my profession. No response was necessary. Anita kept me updated on her situation. Robert had moved into a hotel, frantically trying to salvage both his marriage and gallery. She remained resolute in her decision to divorce him, but was proceeding strategically, ensuring her financial interests were protected. We met occasionally for coffee, finding unexpected common ground beyond our shared betrayal. She understood the architectural principles that guided my work. I appreciated her curatorial eye for detail and authenticity. 1 month after the confrontation, she texted me. Robert's gallery board asked for his resignation today. Apparently, sleeping with photographers whose work you represent violates professional ethics. Who knew? I replied. Jennifer lost her studio lease. Landlord's wife is apparently friends with her assistant Megan, who shared quite a story. In an unexpected development, Steve from Jennifer's studio reached out about potentially collaborating. His photography of architectural spaces showed promise, and I was working on a book about the relationship between structure and environment. It was refreshing to build something new from the ashes of betrayal. For the first time since discovering Jennifer's affair, I felt the heaviness lifting. I'd faced the structural failure, assessed the damage, and was now designing something stronger, more authentic, a life built on integrity rather than illusion. 6 months after discovering Jennifer's betrayal, I stood in my newly redesigned living room, surveying the changes. Gone were the carefully curated art pieces Jennifer had selected, replaced with architectural photographs from Steve's portfolio and a few select pieces from emerging artists Anita had recommended. The divorce had finalized quickly once Jennifer realized I wouldn't budge. Her lawyer made noise about claiming half the house, but retreated when my attorney countered with the evidence of her affair and its potential impact on her already damaged reputation. I'd thrown myself into the Richardson Museum project, producing some of my best work. The client had noticed, commenting, "There's something different about these designs, Adrian. They're bolder, more authentic." He was right. Facing Betrayal had stripped away pretense, leaving only what was genuine. I applied that lesson to my architecture, creating spaces that were honest in their purpose and structure. My phone buzzed with a text from Anita. "Exhibition opening tonight. Still need a +1. Interested?" We developed an unexpected friendship over the months, occasionally meeting for dinner or gallery showings. Nothing romantic. We were both too raw for that. But something equally valuable: mutual respect and understanding. I texted back, "Pick you up at 7. Later that evening, as we walked through the gallery, Anita pointed out a small notice near the entrance: "New Management and Artistic Direction by Megan Lawrence." I raised an eyebrow. "Steve's girlfriend? Jennifer's former assistant?" Anita nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Apparently she's quite talented." Robert's former investors were impressed with her vision. "Life has a way of recalibrating," I mused. Speaking of recalibration, Anita said, "I received Jennifer's wedding invitation yesterday." "Wedding? That was fast." "Not to Robert," she clarified. "Some photographer she met at a convention in Miami." The invitation seemed pointed. I chuckled. "I received one too. Straight to the recycling bin." "You're not curious about Jennifer?" "No. I studied a particularly striking photograph." That chapter's closed. As we moved through the exhibition, I realized how true that was. The anger had faded, replaced by something closer to indifference. Jennifer no longer occupied my thoughts. She'd become a lesson learned, not a wound reopened. Later, over dinner, Anita raised her glass. "To unexpected allies in difficult times." I clinked my glass against hers. "And to building something better from the foundation up." She studied me thoughtfully. "You really have moved on, haven't you?" "I'm an architect," I replied simply. "When a structure fails, you don't keep revisiting the collapse. You learn from it, then design something stronger." Driving home that night, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The betrayal had nearly broken me, but instead it had revealed strengths I hadn't known I possessed. The pain had been real, the anger justified, but they no longer defined me. I had designed and built a new life, one with stronger foundations, clearer lines, and more authentic connections. One where I no longer wondered about what Jennifer was doing or why she had chosen to betray me. That, I realized, was the truest form of moving forward.
Bye.